Hello. Thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi. This is the live streaming where I stitch Sashiko while talking about Sashiko stitching. Sorry. This is the live streaming where I do the Sashiko stitching while talking about Sashiko story. This is not a tutorial, live lecture, or live class, so I will not answer the questions about techniques, but I'm happy to answer the questions about stories, culture, and behind that. I'm a bit sick today, so I will probably finish up within 1 hour or so, like until 10 o'clock here, so within 1 hour, for about 1 hour. And if you have any questions or if you have any requests, please let me know. I'm happy to talk about it. I brought some topic. It has been quite interesting days. So I think I have a lot of things to talk about, but I cannot really summarize it right now. So I will start stitching, and then I will have a topic to discuss. Okay. Okay, let's go. I hope everybody's doing a great job. A great job. Oh my god, I cannot speak. I hope everybody's doing well today. Good job. I was just talking to my daughter until 2 minutes ago, so I kept saying good job, and I am not switching my brain yet. Let me check where I stopped last time. Good evening. Hello. Thank you so much for coming. So I think I am going to talk about the analogy today. I made several analogy about climbing mountain, as well as, what was the first one? And just let me a quick check. I forgot what was the first one. The first one was the first analogy is that, oh my gosh, I completely forgot about it. I thought that I had some. Huh? Didn't I have an analogy before? Oh, the salad, yes. Salad analogy, and also the climbing mountains analogy. Those two are quite important analogy, and well, I often receive some, I don't want to say stupid, but more like not the point to the point comments when I make those analogies. Because analogy is analogy. I'm not talking about climbing the mountains, or I'm not talking about the making a salad itself. It's just the idea to express or explain how it is like to have the, to introduce Sashiko in English. And the recent comment that I kind of dismissed because I thought that it would be not productive if I kept answering his or her questions. I thought that there was something that I was missing, but I think I have not missed anything else. So I will quickly summarize what was going on, and this is how I would reply to that. Is that I said that I'm not top of the mountain, but there might be the people who claim themselves to be the top of the mountain, saying that this is the right path, right trail to come up to the top. And usually, the people who like to be at the top of the mountain tend to share or tend to not to define one trail, because there are many ways to go up. So it is not really it's not often case to define only one trail to come up. The reason somebody may define the only one trail that they come up with is that they might have a shop there where they can get benefit out of it. In this case, benefit can be money or anything is fine, like a fame, attentions, followers. There are reasons that they have shop there, and they define that is the right answer. And the question was about, how about you? Don't you have the shop on the trail I recommend? And of course I do. Of course I do. Biggest difference between them and me is that I don't define mine as the answer. I don't say that mine Sashiko is the only Sashiko you should practice. Or I never say that this is the answer that you have to follow. I, of course, recommend what we can do, and in order to enjoy our trail, I sell something. You need to enjoy that trail. So I kind of define that. I'm not defining what is right or wrong in this case. I am not saying that that path itself is right or wrong. I'm just saying that defining one trail as the right, or only one way to go up, is never going to be right enough. It's not going to be wrong, but if we think about the mountain, there gotta be the way to go up. I mean, even if it does not say the trail, it should be the way to go up. And it is kind of weird to say that there's no way around to go up. And it is misleading to it is misleading people to have a shop where they can make money on that. So my point is not like defining what they're doing is wrong and what I am doing right. That's not my topic of discussion. The point is that there are so many other kind of Sashiko that it's not introduced in English. And my question is, how can they define that only one Sashiko is the answer? And I think that following up question was like, how can I define what they do is wrong and what I do is not wrong? And I stopped replying to that because I thought that the person needed to read what I have been sharing more. Otherwise, I thought that was unfair to everybody else. And I figured that it was not my misunderstanding of what he was writing. I never said that. Again, they are wrong. But at the same time, they're not right. They're not 100% right, because how can one be right if they don't speak Japanese? It is the Japanese culture. It is the Japanese practice. And in order to enjoy Sashiko, you don't have to. You don't have to learn Japanese. The language skill itself does not really define the level of Sashiko or understanding of Sashiko. But when we talk about teaching, when we talk about opening the shop on the trail to go up to the mountain and saying that this is the right trail as the tour guide, then they have to really understand what the mountain is. In this case, what the Japanese culture is like. So for that, I am not saying they are wrong. I'm just, it's really the same statement. The Sashiko introduced in English is not wrong, but not whole, not enough. So that's, it was kind of, I used to get that kind of a question a lot, but I was kind of, has been a long time since I got it for the last time. So I a little bit overreacted. I read several times overreacted in a different way. I read several times. I tried to answer as much as I can, which I usually don't. But I thought that there was something I was missing. In fact, there was nothing I was missing. So just don't. It's more like a favor. I understand that in the Western culture, having the answer is very easy and important. It is, as much as we shout for the freedom of creativity, we all want to have the answer when we follow something. That's why I think the Sashiko, with a lot of answers, are so popular, not only in the Western culture, in Japan as well, but it is the current trend. At the same time, I really want you to not to let others to define the Sashiko you do. It is not something to be defined by somebody. It's not that fancy. You don't really, there's no answer for something you choose regularly. There's no right pizza to pick for tonight dinner. It's about your preference and how you feel about it. And that's pretty much about it about Sashiko. It does not have to be something very specific. It does not have to be it doesn't have to be romanticized. There is no such a thing as right ordinally. Every ordinally is right. For that, it's gonna lead to today's topic. Sashiko is not really the past. I feel like sometimes I feel like nobody has defined that Sashiko as the history. But it's more like indirect message I receive. Some people say that Sashiko is the ancient stitching technique from Japan. Ancient. I mean, this is probably the interpretation of the English word, but when I hear the ancient, I kind of imagine the dinosaur, or those, like, very, very culturally old. Dinosaur is probably a good idea for me. Or those, mummies. From those Indiana Jones kind of thing. So it is not ancient technique. It is not wrong. They existed, as long as I know, they existed about 400 years ago, and I believe that they existed a lot longer, many years ago. But it's not the past yet. You are just now observing the Sashiko stitching we have been doing for the last 40 years or 50 years. So by defining that Sashiko as the past, we will lose the value, not even value, we will use the point of existing it. It's not the past yet. Don't make us the past so easily without involving us. If there's nobody who can do this right now, maybe yes. Maybe you may, or they may say that some of the Sashiko may be in the past. And it is probably true. Some of the Sashiko are in the past already. But instead of focusing on the past too much, I want them to focus on today. And I mean, mummies are wrapped in linen. Yeah, I think so. I don't think there was Sashiko around the mummies. Well, I don't know. It's a different culture, different country. Do we have mummies in our history? Probably. I mean, not exactly the same one, but that's, I don't know. We may. Sashiko has become the form of crafting, and many people teach the crafting, and that's one way. That's a very one way, very true way that Sashiko became. But at the same time, there are some Sashiko so-called artisans who try to their own living by doing Sashiko. And by non-Japanese defining what Sashiko is, they might be taking those current Sashiko artisans existing, the purpose of existing. And that's sad. That's sad, and I think it's not okay. It shouldn't be okay. But, sorry. I hit the camera. It is still practiced. Sorry, just a minute. How can I take this chat? About. True, it is still practiced, so why is it termed as if it were gone? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know who and how they started using the word ancient. Traditional is, understandable. Because traditional does not mean just old. It can be right now, right? Traditional method means like the method we use today based on the tradition. So I think it's kind of surviving thing. So when they say traditional, although it's not really traditional in my understanding, but I'm okay. But ancient is a little different. In fact, I don't know if anybody using the word ancient. There were. I know who, and I think he or she stopped doing Sashiko, but there was a person who kept saying ancient. And they even defined that the Sashiko was originated in Edo period, which we don't know. Maybe. That's what they say, but we don't know that for sure because there's no document to prove it. I think it's not that difficult to keep imagining, like expand our imagination that the Japanese had a similar stitching practice before that in the period. Whenever they had a needle, which according to the document, it's about 700 or so, 700 to 800, they had a similar, like a sort of like a needle kind of thing. And maybe that might be the origin of Sashiko, but sometimes that can be origin of a lot of things. So we don't know the history. I'm not a, anthropologist, or I'm not even the researcher, so it's not my intention to get what it is, where it comes from. More importantly, my job, my mission is to support, not even support, sustain this practice, and for that purpose, I would like to keep supporting the artisans. We cannot kind of mix the vehicle and the goal. The goal is always to preserve this culture somewhat, but in order to preserve the culture, we cannot really. There are ways that I would like to choose, and the best way is to increase the number of Sashiko artisans or somebody who can make Sashiko like us, and then if they keep stitching, that's my dream come true. It is happening right now. Many people who took my workshop both in Japan and outside of Japan are getting very much skilled, and the more they get skilled, the more we can inspire others. For that, the more people will join this, And if you are on the YouTube or like on the internet, we are all on the internet. I'll get back to that question. Right now, there's so many videos of Sashiko online right now. But 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we could not have any. I couldn't find any of those. There are a few of those, but they were not using the thimble that we use. So the current, like a boom of the stitching videos are somewhat, I'm not saying it's only me, but at the same time, I think they learn from what I shared. And the reason I keep saying like copy it is that it is more important for me to have somebody be able to do that instead of just keeping it as my secret and then die with it. In order to preserve this culture, this thimble, this needle, this fabric, these threads are quite important. And the more people stitch the way we do, the better the chance for those suppliers to make sustainable business or business to sustain their production. So the goal is to preserve the culture, and increasing the number of artisans or Sashiko stitchers who can stitch like us is the vehicle to reach that. And there was the good question about, so what is the purpose of preserving the art of Sashiko for the future? I don't know. It's more like, what is the purpose of your life? If I sometimes get this question, especially in my workshop, in-person workshop, like, what is your goal in your life? Like, I don't know. But if we are talk about what is the purpose of preserving this culture, it becomes very, very personal to me. I have so many families and so many artisans, so many friends who spend so much time, so much energy, so like pretty much whole life into this, and they're gone. So I spent like half of my life in this. So I would like to see it keep going. I think there are something in it. It's not something we can probably verbalize. I'm trying my best to verbalize, but at the same time, it might not be something we can really specify it in word. So Sashiko might help somebody, and Sashiko helped somebody too in the past. That's how I became different. So if or because Sashiko could be the help of someone, I wanted to be there. That's more like a secondary, like I'm kind of trying to be cool. I'm trying to be reasonable. I'm trying to be logical. I'm trying to be cool to say that for the purpose of saying it. But I just wanted this one to, it's very selfish. It's very selfish, and pride, ego. But it's my life, so, it's not a my life. I just want, okay, honest, really honest, really honest. I just want people, I'm sorry, not even people. I just want my daughter to recognize who her father was. And for that purpose, I would like to preserve the culture of Sashiko. And that's very, 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 very personal, right? And it's very selfish. And that's why I say a lot of stories. Because it's not only me who's are trying to preserve this culture. Some people may get benefit out of it. Some people may be part of that. So if I become that personal, and if I start saying, like, in order to pass it down to my daughter, I'm doing this, it does not really sound cool or reasonable, or but honestly speaking, and being honest is only one way I can preserve this culture. That's the basic of my like the base level of myself. I think as long as needles, fabric, and thread exist, Sashiko will exist as long as it keeps being taught and passed down the generations. Yes, and the idea of Sashiko will survive. And this is again the selfish. And the reason I would like to make this needle, fabric, thread, and thimble to be sustainable is that I don't want to live the world without those things. I may not be the same artisan in the future if I lose any of those thread, thimble, fabric, needle, any of that. If one of that will be missing, it is very hard for me to imagine that I would be enjoying Sashiko without any of those. I will probably, but it's very, very important for me to use those tools. It's almost like a essential thing. Like example of the climbing mountains, I can climb the mountain with Crocs. I can climb up the mountains with with Nike sneakers probably, but I would like to have the Timberland if I have a choice. And Crocs is good for the Crocs. Nike sneakers is good for Nike sneakers, but I would like to have the shoes for the climbing a mountain, which I have been using last 40 years in my whole life. And in order to make it comfortable, and I believe that many people feel the same way because I told them. So that's one of the reasons I try to keep those tools sustainable. At the same time, this is not really my selfish reason. They spent 50 or 60 years to come up with that, and they've been doing the same thing. So there are reasons we have this. This is the outcome of their struggles. And we are trying to improve it as much as we can as we go. So not only like preserving it, it can be more like advanced things too. That was a weird voice. That's beautiful reason. I think that's for the reason I keep trying to keep Sashiko alive. I appreciate this video so much because I did learn by watching. That's good. I'm glad that. That's the whole purpose of that. Good evening, Susan. It may be selfish, but I agree it's better for the technique to never die out. Yeah, like after all, everything is like, our choice, right? But without a choice, without a preference, how do we define us? We are the people with preferences. It looks like it's been a rich discussion tonight. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's a discussion. It's more like me disclosing some of my personal stories, as usual. There's nothing new, I guess. But yeah, there's nothing scary. I'm not really upset or like. That's why my stitches are not that good today. Okay. The YouTube says that there will be the ad, so I will take a little break here. I'm sorry if the ad runs right now. It's gonna be like a few seconds as long as I know. So for some people it might run, for some it might not run. I just let it go now. And I will just skip. Not skip, I'll just stop talking a little bit. I think it went. I don't have any plans for this year left, I believe. Do I have any other? No. So, as I don't have any plan, I will be stitching. At the same time, I have a tons of things I have to do piled up, like developing follow-up online class and such. But sometimes it's good that I can keep stitching and talking to the online like that. Last year I was making a domestic course around this time. It was difficult. It was so difficult. I even wrote the script, which I didn't. I even wrote the script for 3 hours of my lesson, I mean the course on the Domestica, and I kind of tried to memorize it. But in 3 days of filming, shooting, the script doesn't come up. So the producer said, like, well, you might want to be a little more free and don't worry about reading it. Just, say whatever you can say. But I was a little horrified to be filmed by professionals. So around this time, around Halloween, yes, I was so stressed out about that. Selfishly, I want to learn indigenous, I'm sorry, I cannot say the word, indigenous embroidery in the Philippines. Right now, it remains within tribes. That's okay, but in the meantime, I will be learning all kind of embroidery outside my country. Yeah, so that's it. I don't think it's selfish, but Sashiko is a new trend. It's really ironic. It's very ironic. But if Sashiko were this big trend when I was younger, I may not be speaking English. It's so ironic. I came to the US because I hated Sashiko, right? The reason I hated Sashiko was that I knew that the company was not going great. It was going great when I was like 3 or 4 or 5. In 1980s, the company, 1980s to 1990s, like until the Japanese bubble burst, my family business was doing such a great job. But after that, it was not that great. Like many other, business in Japan, the economy bubble did not help. So in the adolescent, in my teens, on top of that, I did not like stitching. So even if I had a like privilege to not to stitch yet be part of the company, being a part of the company was not the very attractive option. If I can be like, just the hair by being the hair, if I can get like a monthly, payment by just being there, that would be one choice to choose. But I know that the company was not doing so great. And yeah, I wanted to get off from that routine chains. Back then I could have probably sustained my life somehow, but not, be rich or do whatever I wanted. So in order to get out from that, in order to get out from this chain, I decided to come to the US. As the result, I can speak English, which is very ironic again because I am doing Sashiko right now. But without English, unfortunately, none of what I'm saying is not gonna be left behind. like literally, it would be under the history. It would be buried under the history because none of the English Sashiko teachers right now in the world are not mentioning about our Sashiko. But it's I don't sounds like a little elegant, but in order to explain the whole story of Sashiko, it is impossible to not to mention about our family Sashiko. It's that big. It was that big. It was like one phenomenon in the Sashiko. But we really didn't like outsider. We as our company didn't like the outsiders, so we really didn't welcome anybody. As the result, our information didn't go outside, and therefore nothing was translated in English. And as a result, nobody is writing about us on their book. Publications or any magazines, they simply don't know. If they don't know it, they cannot write it. And if they have a shop, if they have any like a manufacturers or brand that they are partnered with, they wouldn't be talking about us neither. So it is very ironic, and it's quite interesting. I see sometimes, see the possibility, not a possibility, I see the another line of the world. What if I were very obedient? What if I were very what if I were not like this and quiet? I think the word is obedient, just obedient. I was not, but if I were a good boy, if I were a very, very good boy in their definition, I wonder what would be happening. And some people say that it was too late for me to be able to speak English. I should be doing the exactly same thing 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Then Sashiko would have different development in English. But interestingly, everything is meant to be. I don't like this word, by the way. I really don't like it. I really don't like it that everything is meant to be. It sounds like I have no control over, and I really don't like it. Like, this is the fate, this is meant to be, it was supposed to be like that. It meant to be happening like that. I don't personally like it, but I sometimes feel it. Okay, I don't like it, but there are things that sometimes we cannot explain. We may sometimes have to accept that it was outside of our control. If I did not, like for example, 10 years ago, well, 10 years ago is good. If I decided to speak up about Sashiko 20 years ago, I wouldn't be speaking up like this. Because I didn't go through the experience in the northern part of Japan's earthquake in 2011. That was my biggest life-changing experience. I would be saying something different completely. I would be probably making certification on those pyramids. I did not like it, but I don't like it right now, but back then, priority was different. So the summary is, though, the message is quite simple. Sashiko is not the past yet. It is happening even right now. So somebody made it the past, and some people follow that. But it is ongoing. It is very much ongoing practice, and it is changing even right now. Changing does not mean that one part of Sashiko becomes the past, because we're not trying to win over the other part of Sashiko. We're trying to coexist. Not even trying, we are coexisting in Japan. It's really interesting, but I have never seen any of those discussions that I see in English on Facebook in Japanese in Sashiko's like discussion. It's because that's what Japanese is like, but I have never seen that. Well, that's not good. So, like, on the social media, some people judge others saying like, well, that's not Sashiko. That's not the traditional Sashiko. That's not. That's not. That's not. And I sometimes think that the same way. That might not be Sashiko, and that's not Sashiko. At the same time, I know it's a preference, so I switch my brain saying, well, that's not my style. I don't like it. But it sometimes goes to the discussion like, what is the right Sashiko? I have never seen the discussion, what is the right Sashiko in Japanese? And trying to define what is right, it is already non-Japanese. It's a very Western way to think about. So if you're learning Sashiko by somebody saying this is the rule, be careful. It's their interpretation of Sashiko, which is very much Westernized. They went through the filter of Western. Do I teach rules? Yes, I do. I do teach rules, but I don't encourage them to only follow that. I encourage them to follow something else as well. I want them to experience it. I want them to be able to do that. After that, it's their choice to follow it or not. It's not right or wrong. I just want them to be able to do it. But many people keep doing the same way, so. Oof. So that was today's topic. I am still very unhappy. Not unhappy. How can I put this way? Probably the same line of me saying that I have never seen any discussion about those what is right and wrong. I am still very upset about the person who said that I was not well respected in Japan. It does not matter if it's true or not. I hope I'm not respected in Japan. I hope I'm somewhat respected in Japan. But the point is not if it's true or not. The point itself is that she brought it up so casually on the internet where everybody can see that. It is a false statement, so it's defamation, and it's bad. At the same time, she's breaking the balance which we have been trying to keep last 40 years without even realizing it. But that's something we trying to protect last 30, 40 years. She casually broke it, and that's really making me angry, I guess that's the word for that. Because in the West, we are learning from a book or teacher entertaining us. In Japan, they're learning by stitching. I mean, by sitting and watching the Sashiko master for 10 years before picking up a needle. 10 years is a little exaggeration, I guess. When we talk about Susan, when did it become 10 years? I don't think I said 10 years. In the traditional form of learning in Japan, yes, it requires doing something non-related things, but there are gonna be the phase of just watching it without doing it. You keep watching, and then practice by yourself in the free time, and then finally you get a teaching at some point. But that's kind of like a formal way. Sashiko itself is not in that category because that was the part of the ordinary. So I think that they could hold a needle. They could hold the needles from the day one because their teacher was great. I mean, their grandmother or mother was somebody in the same region. So it's not something like that big thing. Did anyone ask her where she got her information from regarding your respect in Japan? Of course, I mean, of course they did, and of course there's nothing. Like, no answer whatsoever. I was really nice to ask that question back, but and many people ask her, where is that information coming from? Of course not. Try not to let her bother you. It's clear that the group doesn't respect. Oh my god, I read it out. Ooh, I have to be careful. I am very much. It's not about her. It's just the fact that it came out. That's what bothering me. It's not about her. It's not her person. I'm not talking about that person individually. I'm talking about how big the trend has become. It was about to happen. I knew it was gonna come. I thought that would be me who would do that, probably at some point. I was not expecting this happened so casually. I knew it was coming. My message is pretty strong, and so I knew that something would be coming. But so casually open the fire, right? Pretty much open the fire. It's not a really good analogy, but it could be quite nasty. If I could have reacted differently, and that person could have replied over, and it could have been quite nasty. And Sashiko has never been nasty conversation ever, in my understanding. They were probably nasty behind the scene. I'm not saying we'd never been nasty. We were probably some group talked about the other group of Sashiko in a very nasty way, but it was very much hidden. It was never on the surface of discussion or internet because it's not allowed. It's taboo. It's the biggest taboo. And I'm not bothered by that one comment or person. It's just the fact that it came out, and it's quite. I hope it's only one case, but one case means that it can be another case or so. She never. Yes, the narrator took the comment. Ooh, really? I did not check that. So the comment is down. Okay. Oops. Oopsie. Is Sashiko in Japan done the same way like technique and style? Is Sashiko in Japan done the same way like technique and style? Like the US? Or in English? Probably yes. But more. If you were referring the technique or style that you are talking about in Western or in the English culture, it is very one part of Sashiko, and it's probably some people in Japan are doing the exactly same thing, but it's very one part of the Sashikos as a whole picture, and they're probably 95% more different. And half of them are not even introduced in English. That's why I'm here. That's why I keep saying like Sashiko introduced in English is not enough. Because that's not even the main picture. It's not even covering the half of it. So the question is yes and no, I guess, for that question. I was kidding about it. It's just a joke to explain why. Yep. And Susan, the scary thing is that though 10 years sometimes it's not a joke. Some very strict, some strict traditional art craft may require that much. I'm not I cannot talk on behalf of them, but probably performing art can be one of those which might require 10 years to even be actually practice on the stage. I'm not really shouldn't be talking about, but 10 years is not really the exaggeration. In some cases, for Sashiko it's exaggeration, but of course I said it before. People always play behind a computer. You said it before? Yes. So that's the whole point. That's the whole point. Like, thank you, Bear. So we say it. We have those comments. We all say those things. But not to my face, not to somebody's face directly. And it is the nature of internet. And I understand that. But this time it was not somebody I did not know. I did not know, and I don't know her very well, but I knew her existence, and I think that that was the real name. So the sort of casualty that so frankly happening is quite scary. I don't mind people talking, I'm sorry to use the bad word. I know that people, I am sure that some people are talking shit about me on the back. Because I am saying, I'm like, on purpose, deliberately, I am deliberately saying that strong statement. Sashiko introduced in English is simplified and romanticized. I know how scary this sentence can be, but I have to say that there's no way around it. So I am the one who is kind of breaking that balance, to be honest. But I am doing well, yeah, I'm breaking too. But there was no other way around. Oops, it's already 53. I will try to be nice to myself today. So after this much thread, I will log off. I will finish the live streaming. I think I'm okay. I'm not really sick, but I have the Halloween this weekend, and I'm a father, so I have to take her to that. Susan, you're 100% right. So that's why I kept saying, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, and I expected it would be me to kind of open up. So it's, how can I say that? So I'm not really shocked. Well, I am shocked. How can I say that? I knew it was coming. I think that the level of casualness was the issue, or something that bothers me. I know it does not make sense. Like, Susan's right. Like, why you made this happen. Like you were doing that, and then, yeah, I am doing that. I might be spreading the seed for this. So, yeah, I was expecting that they would not say it to my face until a little bit later. I wouldn't be expecting this to happen so fast. In fact, I thought that I might be the one who threw those things at their face too. I don't want to make like a versus, me versus somebody else. I don't want to make those like a fighting match. I don't. Please don't get me wrong. I do not want to make that happen. That's why I don't really specify the person in this live streaming unless I get picked. I hope I'm not really specifying anybody. But somebody has to say that, because it's not. Even the teacher I brought, I went back to Japan for the last spring, and I took the friends to 3, well, including my mom, 4 major Sashiko masters I respect. And I'm not a master for that level. Like, I am someone. I'm not someone. I'm nobody comparing to them. But those 4 masters are not introduced in English almost at all. I may be more introduced because of my, platform. And I will introduce one by one. But that's the level of missing. And they're not only, those 4s are those who I could make a visit with a very respectful way. Not like knocking the door and say, hey, what's up, I want to visit you. I asked somebody to introduce me indirectly, asking their permission to talk to first. But because I was nobody, I could not talk to them if I just sent email. So I needed somebody who can be between us, who can stand between us and introduce each other. So, but that's the step. That's the step we have to take. But and that's why not many people can introduce them. But that does not mean that they don't exist. She went too far and I didn't do it in appropriate, acceptable way. I get that. There's a back and forth in these things, and then she just jumped ahead. Yeah, jumped ahead is probably a good way to explain that. Stephanie, you think that too, right? So that's the thing. It's not just, I feel like there's some intention behind it. I don't know what's the intention, but it's not a troll. Troll is more purely hateful, or more like stupid. I'm sorry to say it, but no thinking behind it. But that was something else. Well, I'm not gonna probably talk about it next week, as I will be a little busy with something else. I hope I will be busy with something else, but it was a good experience, another good experience, and I am enjoying it, but I am going through it. Each step I have to go through that. But the most important thing is that you are here and then you're hopefully stitching too. In that case, Sashiko will be, like, no matter what I say, if nobody is stitching right now with me, then there's no point. Like, I can be friend with anybody, but if they don't stitch, I don't think I can be friend with them in terms of Sashiko. I can be a friend with anybody for any purpose, but from the Sashiko's perspective, I don't. I trust somebody who likes Sashiko only, like who does not probably stitch. But I don't trust Sashiko teacher who does not stitch. It's just not right. It doesn't go well together. Okay, 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for today's live streaming. I will have to go to now, so I won't take anything. Just let me, where's the comment? Just a second, okay? Where did it go? The comment went somewhere else. Okay. Come on, come back. Okay. All right, it went a little bit over, but today's live session. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Let me redo it. Let me do it. So thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live streaming on Thursday night. If you're watching this as the archive, please leave the comment for the request for me to talk about next week. I will be here every Thursday night from now on until the end of the year, I think. And if something happens, I will update the comment. I do have a lot of videos, and I forgot about it. I do have another series of Sashiko dialogue with Tai. He's a quite nice, intelligent young person who asks me very interesting questions all the time, and we decided to talk on the internet, on Zoom, and we decided to film it so we can I don't have to repeat the same questions over and over again. But his question is quite interesting, and we had a nice discussion last week, and we are trying to upload it as soon as possible. But it was very, very interesting discussion, and I hope that it will help us to understand what Sashiko is together. The whole goal of this live streaming is to stitch together so that you will have a place for you to stitch, as well as to encourage you to learn to listen, not even learn, to listen to what the other Japanese Sashiko stitchers are saying. I will try my best to involve others as well. But yeah, that being said, your question will be helpful for me to talk about. There are some topics that I might not be able to talk, but I usually try my best to go around it. Oh, you liked it live with Ames? Yeah, that was very good. I think that you can, I had a quite good 1-hour presentation last week with the Soul Inspired Summit with Indie Bindi Fabric. I might put that on the description area, but I think that the lecture is accessible after those weekend by purchasing a VIP pass, and also she has tons of the good stuff. I am gonna check it. I've checked already, but I kind of clicked the back button because there was so many options. So if you can, that'd be a good way to enjoy that as well. Okay, I still have a lot of things to do. A lot of us have, but I hope you have a good Thursday night, and then I will see you next week.